Hello, Year 2, and welcome to this week's reading session. It's with me again. I'm so lucky to have you for both literacy and reading this week. Today we're going to look at a story called The Rough-Faced Girl, and it's based upon a fairy tale. I wonder if you can work out what it is by the end. So I'm going to share my screen so we can get straight on. Here we go then. Lovely. Okie dokie. So these are the things that we're going to be looking at today. Oh, I don't know if you can see me in the corner. There we go. So we're going to look at the setting, and then we're going to read the text. I have actually got a book, which is a bit annoying. So we're going to listen to a YouTube clip. So you can always do that with me on the video, or I'll send you the link as well, so you can do it on your own if you'd like to. Then we're going to play true or false, and then we're going to answer some questions. We're going to be detectives, which means we're going to be using our inference today. So these are all the things you're going to need. You're going to need that reading brain turned on this time, and pencil and paper, please. Now, what I did to make it a little bit easier for us is to match up words that are in the story, because they're a bit tricky, some of them, that we might not know the answer to, and we might not know what they mean. So I'm just going to read out the words that are in the pink boxes. And I want you to read what's in the orange boxes, because that's the meaning of them. So the first one is someone might be called callous, and it might be how they act, and that means they're being mean and insensitive, and they use that to describe the two sisters in the story. In the story, they all live in something called a wigwam, which is their house. They're also, the sisters are called hard-hearted, and that means they lack understanding of others. They think about themselves a lot. They wear something called moccasins, which are shoes, and they also use something called buckskin, and that's the skin of a deer, and they use that for lots of different things. So they're just some words that are going to pop up in the story. So just maybe take a picture, ching, so that you know what they mean. Okay, this is our story today, The Rough-Faced Girl, and that's the title. Now, the author is Rafe Martin, and David Shannon is the illustrator, which means he does all the lovely pictures. Now, we're not quite sure what it's going to be about yet, and we're just going to find out in a second when we listen to the story. So I am going to hopefully share a different screen with you now. And we're going to listen really carefully to the story. I hope it is loud enough for you to hear. And this is The Rough-Faced Girl. So listening ears, please.
The Rough-Faced Girl, written by Rafe Martin, illustrated by David Shannon. Once, long ago, there was a village by the shores of Lake Ontario. Off from the other wigwams of this village stood one great huge wigwam. Painted on its sides were pictures of the sun, moon, stars, plants, trees, and animals. And inside this wigwam there was said to live a very great, rich, powerful, and supposedly handsome invisible being. However, no one could see him except his sister, who lived there too. Many women wanted to marry this invisible being, but his sister said, only the one who can see him can marry him. Now, in this village, there lived a poor man who had 3 daughters. The 2 older daughters were cruel and hard-hearted, and they made their youngest sister sit by the fire and feed the flames. When the burning branches popped, the sparks fell on her. In time, her hands became burnt and scarred. Her arms, too, became rough and scarred. Even her face was marked by the fire, and her beautiful long black hair hung ragged and charred. And those 2 older sisters laughed at her, saying, "Ha! You're ugly, you rough-faced girl."
That's not
and they
right,
made
is
her
it?
life very lonely and miserable indeed. One day, these 2 older sisters went to their father and said, "Father, give us some necklaces. Give us some new buckskin dresses. Give us some pretty beaded moccasins. We're going to marry the invisible being." So their father gave them these things. Dressed in their finest, the 2 girls marched through the village. All the people pointed and stared. "Look at those beautiful girls," they said. "Surely they shall marry the invisible being." And if those 2 girls were proud and hard-hearted before, they were even prouder now. They walked haughtily through the village. At last they came to the wigwam of the invisible being, and there was his sister waiting. "Why have you come?" she asked. "We want to marry the invisible being," they answered. "That's why we're here." "If you want to marry my brother," she replied, "you have to have seen him. Tell me, have you seen the invisible being?" "Of course we've seen him," they insisted. "Can't you see how pretty we are? Can't you see the beautiful clothes we wear? Oh yes, anyone can tell that we've truly seen the invisible being." "All right," she said quietly. "If you think you've seen him, then tell me, what's his bow made of?" And suddenly her voice was swift as lightning and strong as thunder. "His bow?" they stammered in surprise. "His bow. We know." But turning desperately to one another, they whispered, "What shall we say? Let's say it's the oak tree." So they said, "It's the great oak tree." "No," said the sister of the invisible being. "No." Oh, she saw at once how they lied. "Tell me," she continued, "if you think you've seen my brother, the invisible being, then what's the runner of his sled made of?" We know," cried those two sisters. But whispering feverishly again, they wondered, "What shall we say? What shall we say?"
What do you think they're going to
"Let's
say?
It's the green willow branch."
Hmm.
"No," said the sister when she heard.
Oh dear, they
"No,
didn't get it right.
you have not seen my brother. Now go home." "Just test us fairly," they exclaimed. "We've seen him. Just don't ask us all these silly questions." "All right," said the sister of the invisible being. "Come with me." And she took them back to the great wigwam and sat them in the seats furthest from the entrance, the guest seat. Soon they heard footsteps coming along the path. Then something stepped inside. Though they heard breathing, the two sisters still couldn't see a thing. Suddenly, a great bow and a beaded quiver of arrows appeared in the air and were set down. But though those two girls sat there, their eyes wide, all through that night they never saw a thing more. And in the
No.
morning,
So they still
had to
hadn't
go
seen the
home
invisible man,
ashamed.
even though they thought they had. Oh dear.
The next day, the rough-faced girl went to her father and said, "Father, may I please have some beef? May I please have a new buckskin dress and some pretty moccasins? I'm going to marry the invisible being, for wherever I look, I see his face." But her father sighed. "Daughter," he said, "I'm sorry. I have no beads left for you, only some little broken shells. I have no buckskin dress, and as for moccasins, all I have left are my own old, worn, cracked, and stretched out pair from last year, and they're much too big."
Oh,
But she
no.
said, "Whatever you can spare, I can use."
That's kind of her.
So he gave her these things. Then she found dried reeds, and, taking the little broken shells, she strung a necklace. She stripped birch bark from the dead trees and made a cap, a dress, and leggings. Then, with a sharp piece of bone, she carved in the bark pictures of the sun, moon, stars, plants, trees, and animals. She went down to the lake shore and soaked the moccasins in the water until they grew soft. Then she molded them to her feet. But they were still too big, and they flapped, flapped, flapped like duck's feet as she walked. Then all the people came out of their wigwams. They pointed and stared. "Look at that ugly girl," they laughed. "Look at her strange clothes. Hey, hey, hey! Go home, you ugly girl. You'll never marry the invisible being." But
That's not
the rough-faced
kind.
girl had faith in herself, and she had courage. She didn't turn back. She just kept walking right through the village. As she walked on, she saw the great beauty of the earth and sky spreading before her, and truly she alone, of all in that village, saw in these things the sweet yet awesome face of the invisible being. At last she came to the lake shore just as the sun was sinking behind the hills and the many stars came glittering out like a fiery veil in the darkening sky overhead. And there, standing by the water's edge, was the sister of the invisible being, waiting. Now, the sister of the invisible being was a wise woman. When she looked at you, she didn't see just your face or your hair or clothes. No, when she looked at you, she would look you right in the eyes, and she could see all the way down to your heart. And she could tell if you had a good, kind heart or a cold, hard, and cruel one. And when she looked at the rough-faced girl, she saw at once that though her skin was scarred, her hair burnt, her clothes strange, she had a beautiful, kind heart.
Well, that's good.
And so she welcomed her dearly, saying, "Ah, my sister, why have you come?" And the rough-faced girl replied, "I have come to marry the invisible being." "Ah," said the sister very gently now, "if you want to marry him, you have to have seen him. Tell me, have you seen my brother, the invisible being?" And the rough-faced girl said, "Yes." "All right then," said the sister. "If you have seen him, tell me, what's his bow made of?" And the rough-faced girl said, "His bow? Why, it's the great curve of the rainbow."
Wow.
"Ah," exclaimed the sister in excitement. "Tell me," she asked, "if you have seen my brother, the invisible being, what's the runner of his sled made of?" And the rough-faced girl, looking up into the night sky, said, "The runner of his sled? Why, it's the spirit road, the Milky Way of stars that spreads across the sky."
Wow.
"Ah!" cried the sister in wonder and delight. "You have seen him. Come with me." And taking the rough-faced girl by the hand, she led her back to the great wigwam and sat her in the seat next to the entrance, the wife's seat. Then they heard footsteps coming along the path, closer and closer. The entrance flap of the wigwam lifted up, and in stepped the invisible being. And when he saw her sitting there, he said, "At last, we have been found." Then, smiling kindly, he added, "And oh, my sister, but she is beautiful." And his sister said, "Yes." The sister of the invisible being then gave the rough-faced girl the finest of buckskin robes and a necklace of perfect shells. "Now bathe in the lake," she said, "and dress in these." So the rough-faced girl bathed in the waters of the lake. Suddenly, all the scars vanished from her body.
Wow.
Her skin grew smooth again, and her beautiful black hair grew and long and glossy as a raven's wing. Now anyone could see that she was indeed beautiful. But the invisible being and his sister had seen that from the start. Then, at last, the rough-faced girl and the invisible being were married. They lived together in the great gladness and were never parted.
And that's the end of our story. Wow, so much happened. There seemed to be lots and lots going on. That poor rough-faced girl at the start, she was treated very badly by her sisters. The sisters went to try and marry the invisible man, but they'd never seen him before, and they got sent away after they made lots of mistakes with what he looks like and what his bow is like. And then luckily the rough-faced girl had seen him all around, and she went to go and find him, even though she didn't have beautiful clothes and she had lots of scars all over her. She answered the questions right, And so she was able to marry him at the end. Lovely. Okay, now we're going to do a few questions on what we've just listened to. So now I'm going to show you the different questions for the different chilies for today. So let's have a look. Okie dokie. I'm just going to make it so you can see me. There we are. Okay, so we had a look at this earlier. Oh, there's all the lovely pictures to go back over. There she is. She's in her clothes. She's going over. She wants to go and marry the invisible man. She hasn't got beautiful clothes, but there's the sister waiting for her. And she knows that his bow is made of rainbows and that his sledge is made of the stars. And then she finally gets to go and have a dip in the lake, and all of her scars magically disappear, which is brilliant. And they're finally married at the end. Okay, so we're going to answer a few true or false questions. Remember, true means yes and false means no. So the rough-faced girl was dishonest. Did she lie about anything? True or false? Okay, what do you think? You're absolutely right. That is false. She didn't lie about anything. She was always honest. The sisters were cruel and unkind. True or false? True, they were very unkind with it. They were very mean to her. They made her do the fire and they laughed when she got burnt. The rough-faced girl's father gave her beautiful clothes. Did he give her beautiful clothes to go and see the invisible man in or not? Have a think. True or false? False. He didn't, did he? He didn't have anything left to give her. He only gave her some broken shells and some shoes that were too big for her. By the way, you can do this by writing down, or you can just do it true or false talking to me. It's completely up to you. The rough-faced girl was beautiful. Was she beautiful? Lovely. Well done if you said true, because by the end she was very beautiful and she had a beautiful heart, which is the most important thing. The story was set in the United Kingdom. Is it set here where we live, or is it set in a different country? What do you think? True or false? It's set in the UK. Well done, that is false. Yeah, it's a Native America story, so it's set in America. The invisible man's bow was a rainbow. Was his bow made from a rainbow? True or false? Well done if you said true. Yes, it was made from a rainbow. He was very important, that invisible man, wasn't he? He had a rainbow for his bow. Okay, now this is the 2 chili challenge for today, and you need to answer these questions in your book. So it might be good if you pause the screen now, okay, and you can always number the questions 1 to 4, and you could then answer them in your book for me. I'll read them out whilst you're doing that. So how did the 2 sisters make the younger sister feel? Use examples from the text to support your answer. So how do they make her feel? Can't you see how pretty we are? What does this statement tell you about the characters of the 2 older sisters? Are they nice people or not? Why did the invisible being not choose the 2 older sisters? And why did the sister of the invisible being tell the rough-faced girl to bathe in the lake? Why would that have been helpful for her? So if you're doing the 2 chili challenge, then pause it here now. Now, this is if you're doing the 3 chili challenge. So do you think the rough-faced girl was beautiful? Why? You need to try and get some evidence from the text of that. And why do you think she was beautiful? And then why did the 2 older sisters walk haughtily through the village? Okay, and try to think about what that means, haughtily. That means they think that they are better than everyone else. Why did they walk like that through the village? Now, again, I want you to try and use the book to remember all the things from it to support your answer. Lovely. Well done, everyone. Well, I hope you have enjoyed our new story for the week, and you've done a really good job in your writing. I'm sure you have. And we're going to be comparing the story to a similar story next time. I wonder if you've worked out what that story is. It's a fairy tale. I'll give you a clue. Okay, everyone. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that, and I will see you again for Friday's session. So take care, everyone. Have a good week, and I'll see you very soon.